Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. This is the Brianne Wolgram case, episode 2, and we are going to go over even more information regarding the Brianne Wolgram case. On the previous episode, I did mention the McDonald's customer story, and I was requested to go more into that, so we'll be examining that, as well as other geographical and timeline issues that might hold the key to who was responsible for Brianne Wolgram's disappearance and how those circumstances played out. We will be examining everything in typical Mindshock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront. As always, if you find the podcast interesting, you want to help support the podcast, help keep awareness up in these missing persons, cold cases, and still unsolved cases, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. We also have YouTube membership, so you can support the podcast that way and get exclusive access to members-only streams and chats for the more advanced aficionados in true crime and other topics. Like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. The Brianne Wolgram case was actually a Patreon request. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. All right, so let's get right down to it. So what did this McDonald's witness say? So before we get into the exact details, I'm just going to do a quick recap here. Brianne was last seen between 11 and 11:30 p.m. on September 5th, 1998 at the 7-Eleven store in Revelstoke, British Columbia. She was witnessed in the company of 3 young unidentified females, although earlier reports actually could have been up to 4 females, and there were switch-ups with the sketches. Supposedly the sketches might only reveal 2 of the 3 or 4. If any of them were even real, some believe they're all made up for misdirection, as well as two other single males who were there at that gas station. 5 days later, her abandoned vehicle, a black Acura Integra with gold-colored rims, was found 30 kilometers south of Revelstoke up Echo Lake Road in the general direction of the Accolcolex Falls and River. Her wallet, driver's license, and $200 cash were found in the vehicle. So a couple little details. Apparently, she did have an emotional breakdown at work the day of, and then went home. Then there's some unaccounted for time. Then instead of picking up her best friend to go to parties, this is Labor Day weekend, there was a softball tournament in town, so a lot of strangers and transients coming through town that weekend, big party weekend. So she was also sighted at the Rock Pit Bar the night before the night of her disappearance, and I will be going into that. There might be a smoking gun there, a big major mind shock. I will be going into that as well. And yeah, so the circumstances of that night, instead of picking up her friend to go to parties, supposedly she was witnessed by people who knew her at this 7-Eleven in the company of these 3 or possibly 4 young women, depending on earlier reports. It is unclear exactly who witnessed her, but supposedly these are people that know Brianne. And it's strange, because are they really good friends with her? In which case, would they approach her? Because she's with these women they don't recognize. Like, what's the deal there? Or are they just distant acquaintances where they know her, they saw her around town, so they can positively ID her, but they wouldn't necessarily walk up and engage in conversation every single time they saw her. So these are unknown variables as well. Supposedly these witnesses also had to be hypnotized in order to provide these sketches, which is also unclear because they lived in other towns, Edmonton and some other town. They were not from or in Revelstoke at the time of the hypnosis, so how close of acquaintances or friends were they really of Brianne? There's a lot of unanswered questions in this case. I mean, we went over the law enforcement information from a meeting with law enforcement. Apparently, they would not even reveal if Brianne's phone had been checked, her phone history, who she called, who she engaged with. I mean, these are major red flags here. So, like some of these other cases, it's seemingly there's enough evidence here to solve this thing. And another major mind shock, possible critical point, is that the 7-Eleven security tape supposedly wasn't running, or at least it was not recovered. So, which 7-Eleven employees said was unusual. So if that's the only night of the year where the tape was not functioning or not available, how can we ignore that? I mean, that's crazy. That's really, really crazy. So that's the background there for those people that are new. Make sure you do check out episode 1 so you're caught up on all the exact details. So this is the rumor here, or alleged report, and it was reposted July 26, 2013 on the findbrand.wordpress.com blog. So it is unclear exactly the date that this was posted, but this message is accompanied with this statement about it. It was posted by Mike. This message was left through the site by a person who did not leave a name or email. So this is an anonymous submission. So it is unclear at which time it was submitted, but it was posted here on this site on July 26, 2013. And of course, Brianne's disappearance, 1998. So here it is. I was a frequent traveler in the Revelstoke area from 96 through till 2000. I was working on a project that would bring me to town for supplies several times a week. I used the local gas stations and quite often the drive-thru at the highway restaurants. I was on one of those trips a week or so before Brianne was reported missing that I witnessed an event that may be related. I was accustomed to getting coffee for the road late in the evening on the way through town. A girl, whom I believe to be Brianne, was working the window most nights at the local McDonald's at the time. On this one particular night, I drove up to the order board, as usual, and waited for a response. None came for a long time, and I called into the microphone repeatedly, but got no answer. I got tired of waiting and didn't want to miss the last chance to order as it was nearing closing time, so I drove up to the window at an angle where I could see. Near the back, I saw Brianne standing there, crying and sobbing hysterically. Let me read that again. I saw Brianne standing there and crying and sobbing hysterically. There was another girl beside her talking to her or consoling her over something. Brianne was really distraught, and the other girl's attention was focused on Brianne to the point she was ignoring everything else. I sat there for quite some time without anyone noticing me. Finally, a male employee wearing a McDonald's uniform came around the corner from within and upon seeing me sitting there came to the window. He was acting a little strangely, looking back over his shoulder to see what I could see from where I was parked. He seemed to be searching my face to see if he could tell by my expression what I was thinking or how much I had seen. He got me a coffee as quickly as possible to get me on my way, didn't even charge me, and never said anything about what was going on. I mean, it's unfortunate that he doesn't give the employee's age here. Is this a young kid? Or is this like an older employee, possible manager? Either way, continuing on here, I have been through a lot of drive-thrus over the years and have never had anything like that happen before. A few days later, I was again going through and stopped for a coffee at the same McDonald's. The girl who had been beside Brianne the previous night had taken over the job Brianne had been doing and served me at the window. I asked her what had happened the other night, and she, at first, pretended not to know what I was talking about. Let me repeat that line again. I asked her about what happened the other night, and she, at first, pretended not to know what I was talking about. By the time she got my orders, she changed her story and, acting quite nonchalant, said, "Oh, it was nothing," and downplayed the event almost to the extreme. Whenever I went through again over the next while, she never said a word about it again, but I could tell by the second glances she gave me each time that she had taken note of me, of my curiosity, and knew that I had seen enough to make me suspicious. What does everybody make of all that? I mean, that's a little bizarre. The male that came to the window that night had also seemed somewhat concerned as to what I had seen. He was dark-haired, clean-cut, with a distinguishing pair of thicker than average glasses that made his eyes look bigger than usual. He was older than the teens working there and may have been the night manager. So there we go. Now we have details about this employee. He was older than the teens working there and may have been the night manager. So possibly 20s, maybe even, he doesn't say much older, so maybe late 20s, maybe early 30s. It was near the same time when I saw a group of girls matching the description of those in the sketch that was being circulated following Brianne's disappearance, hanging out at a gas station not far away. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is quite mind-shocking. Let me go over that again. It was near the same time when I saw a group of girls matching the description of those in the sketch that was being circulated following Brianne's disappearance, hanging out at a gas station not far away. One of the girls, a blonde, slightly heavyset, associating with the others, worked there at the time serving gas. She was acting quite strangely in the presence of the other girls on that day in a manner I had never seen from her before. It also seemed she was asking for help but couldn't talk for some reason. The other girls seemed to be watching her actions. This was the gas station on the opposite side of the Trans-Canada Highway from McDonald's, to the right of the intersection if you left the highway going in that direction. I once spoke... Is that where Brianne worked? She worked right around there. I once spoke with some locals involved in the search and relayed this story. Since then, I have heard several more bits and pieces of information that were a little troublesome to comprehend. I heard that the police were likely quite aware who the group of girls were. I heard that the surveillance video from the 7-Eleven was missing for the night of Brianne's disappearance. I heard that when her car was found, there were no prints to be found, not even Brianne's. That's an interesting point, too. I guess that goes to the rumor that the car was wiped down. I heard that a couple of McDonald's employees, one male, one female, had changed their stories about their activities on the night that Brianne went missing. I'm just going to interject here just for a second before I go over the whole thing again after I'm done. But is it coincidental that this was Labor Day weekend? Now, most females are harmed either by their significant other or by someone known to them, friend, acquaintance, whomever, coworker. Someone known to them. We cannot ignore these stats. So is it possible if Brianne was harmed by those known to her, it just happened to be Labor Day weekend? And the Labor Day weekend crowd is not really a factor, and it kind of just, it was an accidental happenstance that worked out in the favor of the perpetrators here if they harmed Brianne, if they were her friends and or coworkers and or acquaintances. Is that a possibility? But continuing on here, given that Brianne has never been found and the strange details surrounding her disappearance, I am left wondering if the incident I saw that night had anything to do with her disappearance. Whatever had happened that night and had caused her extreme distress. I wonder if the investigation into her disappearance was compromised at the time so as to not drag McDonald's name into the investigation. I am sure that would be something that the McDonald's Corporation would hate to have come out if there was anything to it, female employees being assaulted and or kidnapped and or murdered by a male McDonald's employee. I wonder what happened to those two employees since, the girl and her male associate from that night. Are they together as a couple now? Have they moved on to another location? Were there any more incidents wherever they went afterwards? Etc. If the girl and the male employee aren't together, maybe the girl could be set up now to get her talking somehow. Like a story of a huge cash reward for the location of a body, no questions asked. I still wonder if the investigation would not have progressed further without the presence of the McDonald's connection, and I'm sure McDonald's has run into this sort of thing before in other places and possibly has had more pull than anyone knows to thwart any adverse publicity that could result from these types of situations if required. Okay, so I don't know how much of a factor the McDonald's thing is. I mean, I'm sure people have been killed at McDonald's before and assaulted. So, I mean, this was 98, but still, I don't know if that would have played a factor. So I'm not really going to address that much. So let's go over what we think here. So first of all, there's an issue here with the sighting of the girls in the sketches, because if one of them worked at the McDonald's or were hanging out at the gas station at least one or two other times, I mean, how would other people have not identified them unless they did, and they did tell police, and the police kept it hush hush for whatever reason, either not to compromise the investigation, or if they somehow cleared, even if they didn't deserve to be cleared, if they either through incompetence or however, or competence, they cleared these other people in the sketch somehow. But wouldn't they have said that? Because they didn't really bring up the two single males at the gas station. Apparently they were cleared, so they didn't want to just leave it hanging, oh, these men have never been identified, because what if they were and cleared? But yet, they did leave the women in the sketches up in the air, never identified. So, is there a particular reason why, if they were cleared, they would not make a statement regarding that? Or just even at least sweep it under the rug like they did for the two single males, but they didn't do that for the women in the sketches here, whether there were three or four or however. So there's a slight issue here with that sighting, but let's go in order here. So the first part of the story, I mean, it seems kind of weird. I don't necessarily think someone would make this up. I mean, if they're looking for attention, unless they're really smart and they want to make it like a really subtle whatever. I mean, this was anonymous. Now, the owner of the blog here said that they, the parents or the police, they said that they did follow up with this individual, that they spoke with this individual, and their follow-up statement was that Brianne's friends and coworkers were extensively looked into by the police. Now, that doesn't mean anybody was cleared, but basically that's an acknowledgement that there was investigation into this sighting. And obviously the people she worked with, which they would have done anyway, even without the sighting, I would imagine. I mean, that's how the thorough investigation is done, because again, these are just basic statistics. Females that are met with foul play are usually met with foul play at the hands of either the significant other, or some male interested and known to them, or at least who knows them, or friends, co-workers, acquaintances, family members, someone known to them. So we cannot ignore those statistics. Again, that doesn't mean it happened in this particular case, but in a thorough investigation, that would all have to be examined. Now, is it suspicious if this account is legitimate, or at least the first half of this account is legitimate? Is it possible the second half of the account was embellished? Maybe, and not even unintentionally, maybe this guy was particularly looking for these women and in the sketches, and he thought anybody even somewhat resembling the sketches was them, and it wasn't. And somehow they were able to clear this second sighting. But this person is trying to be a good Samaritan and offer information honestly, so they're saying what they believe to be the truth, especially regarding McDonald's. That seems like a really weird thing to add if you're just trying to get attention. So it seems like this person may very well be genuine, regardless if they saw what they really thought they saw. So regarding the female co-worker here, so we do know Brianne was upset. So this does fall in line with the limited information we do have. So she worked at McDonald's. She also worked at the Old Frontier Super Save gas station right there. I don't know if this is the exact gas station, because it looks like there might be another one or two right around that intersection. So it's unclear whether he spotted these girls in the sketches. But if this girl in the sketch, or more than one, if he spotted all of them, if they were at Brianne's former workplace, what does that mean? And one of them actually works there? How would people not identify her if she's in the sketch and she works at, or maybe she doesn't work there, if she was only there at the workplace one or two times, whatever. I mean, you would think people would still identify her. So apparently she worked a shift at the gas station. Coworkers said she seemed upset and broke into tears. So that was the day she disappeared at the gas station. So is this the night before? So this was a week before Brianne was reported missing. So this was not the day before. So this was a number of days prior. So the day she goes missing, her employees at the gas station said she broke down and cried. And then anywhere between a couple days and a week or so, this other individual, this frequent traveler to the Revelstoke area, said he saw her crying hysterically. So not like a little small cry, but completely hysterical. So what's going on here? Has it been going on longer? Is this simply the seasonal depression that happens frequently? But if so, is there an innocent explanation here? I mean, it's kind of convenient that she had this seasonal disorder or whatever, seasonal depression, because we're going from the summer season to the fall season here, into Labor Day weekend, end of the summer. I mean, that's yeah, we need more information there. Did Brianne often have breakdowns at work and cry during seasonal changes? If so, this is all a lot less suspicious. And even the employee that was consoling her, if that always happened, like, how long was that employee working there? How long did she know Brianne? And if this was going on for a year or so, and that happens every seasonal change, and she's kind of used to it, perhaps she would downplay that, because in her mind, it's just Brianne being emotional like she always is during the transitions of the season. Now, her mother said that it was not an issue at that time. So, would her mother know? I mean, again, there's a lot of question marks here. Now, if the second half of this account is true, and he really did see, and same thing with the male, although, see, you know what's weird though? He's saying that these people regarded him suspiciously on his follow-up visits. That's kind of a red flag, because again, these are things people can pick up, because he made it known that he was there, he asked about it, so now they're suspicious of him. Now, if the rumor is true that they did change their story, obviously police would have to verify that. I mean, now we have a case here. I mean, we have a really good case against these individuals, if that's true. Are they connected with the people, or somehow know someone at the 7-Eleven that could have snatched the tape or taped over it or whatever, or made sure it wasn't recording that night? Because again, do we have 100% verified corroboration that it wasn't recording in the first place, or was the tape snatched and it was simply stated that it wasn't recorded? So, yeah, that's suspicious. Yeah, what the most suspicious aspect of here could be their behavior. And you know what's curious? Was there security footage at the McDonald's? If so, it would be curious to see if we can find this guy and corroborate his story and his follow-up visits and the behavior of this female and male co-worker at McDonald's. Because it's not just about the night of. All of this information can prove critical, and as I mentioned in many cases, brain fingerprint scan technology, not polygraphs, brain fingerprint scan technology. This is high-end military technology used for interrogations because it bypasses anything regarding intent to deceive. So it simply is recognizing brain wave responses to information. Either it's familiar or not familiar. Whether the person is trying to lie or tell the truth, completely irrelevant. There's $100,000 or $150,000 reward for anybody who can beat the machine. As far as I know, nobody has beat it yet. It has been used in at least one court case, found admissible, because it's scientific technology, not faulty polygraph technology. That's too subjective, based on whether someone's nervous or not. This brain wave technology, it can solve all these cases, I believe. So all these individuals should have been given a brain fingerprint scan. Now, I don't think that tech was at least not used in the civilian world in '98, but now it is. It was used in the Stephen Avery case. He had, of course, passed it. So, anyway, regarding this account, yes, the follow-up visits, if this is all true, if the female and male employee were that shifty regarding this guy in the follow-up visits and that concerned about what he had seen, that's a problem. Was Brianne pressured into some kind of drug situation with the coworkers and she didn't want to be? And they were really, really coercing her, and that had something to do with these other young women in the sketch. Either way, or did they not want her involved, and maybe she stumbled upon or witnessed one of their dealings out of the McDonald's? It would not be the first time McDonald's employees were dealing drugs out of the drive-thru window or otherwise, or in the back or whatever. Fast food places have been used for the procurement and dealing of drugs for a very long time. This would not be the first time. So if she stumbled upon something, she didn't like it, and they were trying to get her to keep quiet, how would that play out? Okay, so regarding the second half of the account, he saw a group of girls matching the description of those in the sketch. So did he see every single one of those individuals in the sketch? That's weird, because did he see that and nobody else saw it? So they were hanging out at a gas station not far away. Okay, so the girls in the sketch were not working at this gas station. He's stating one of the girls who was with the group of girls in the sketches was a heavyset blonde, worked at the gas station, and she was acting strangely in the presence of the other girls in that day in a manner I had never seen her before. So is this the old Super Save gas station that Brianne worked at? But even if not, it's right in that same intersection area. So she knew the other girls that were watching her, so she probably knew something about that situation. I'm assuming this heavyset blonde was investigated to some, or at least questioned by the police, because if she knew these other girls, and at what time did he see her there? Because he doesn't say that. He doesn't say. He said it was near the same time when I saw a group of girls matching the description of those in the sketch, hanging out with this heavyset blonde who worked at the gas station. So was this super late at night and nobody else saw them? Is that why they weren't identified? If this was in the middle of the day, how did nobody call that in when information of the sketches was in the newspaper and all of that? So, a lot of curiosities here. There's a lot of questions there, a lot of questions. So the final point I'm going to go over here is the rock pit. So I kind of glossed over it a little bit. So the night before, so on this WordPress blog, Find Brianne, it was stated that several individuals saw her at the rock pit, which is currently the Traverse. They saw her there the night before her disappearance. So they saw her there on Friday night. So here's the thing. Apparently, there, again, more than one individual. So this might not have been a mistaken sighting, because if they have several people that sighted her at the rock pit. Now, again, this is Labor Day weekend, so it's probably packed. But here's something that we didn't specifically discuss. And that is that the rock pit just happens to be right next to the 7-Eleven where she was last seen the following day. Now, is this too much of a coincidence? So the rock pit is currently the Traverse. It's now called the Traverse Bar and Lounge or whatever, but at the time it was called the rock pit. It's right next to the 7-Eleven. I mean, does anybody find that too coincidental? She's spotted at the rock pit the night before, and she goes missing a stone's throw from the rock pit. I mean, not that many yards. It's just a tiny short walk from the rock pit to the 7-Eleven. It's right there. So, is that another one of these weird coincidences? And if she was at the rock pit the Friday night, the night before, what does that mean? Did someone see her there? Did she become embroiled with certain individuals, possibly the girls in the sketch? Did she meet them the night before at the rock pit? And then she was associating with them again the next night? What happened the previous night at the rock pit? And again, all of this seems to point to possibly a drug connection. I mean, what other possible connections could there be? Did Brianne already know the women in the sketch by that Saturday night? Because she met them on Friday night, possibly even earlier. So again, this is not one sighting. It was reported that a few people, several people saw her. From the findbrianne.wordpress.com site, quote, a few people reported thinking they saw her in the bar, rock pit, on Friday night, end quote. So was it not a 100% positive ID, but several people made a possible ID, not one person. That's what makes it curious. It's not one person who could have been mistaken. We would have to have several people having been mistaken. So, what's the timeline here? Let's look at this timeline here. So, we have, also, did she go to the rock pit again the Saturday night? Because she's at the 7-Eleven, which is right next to the rock pit. So did she go to the rock pit again that Saturday night, the night she disappeared, and then ended up at the 7-Eleven with these other girls? Did they leave from the rock pit on Saturday night? But did no one report them at the rock pit Saturday night? But the fact that the rock pit is right next to the 7-Eleven and she was spotted at the rock pit the night before, is that hard to ignore? That's kind of hard to ignore. I mean, there's a series of coincidences here. So let's re-examine the timeline here. So if this report from this coffee traveler is true, the week prior she's sobbing at McDonald's. The Friday during the day, is it during the day or is it at night when I think it's during the day when she's sobbing at the gas station she works at. Then that night she's spotted at the rock pit. Then the following night she's spotted at the 7-Eleven and is never seen again. Anyone else think the rock pit might play a factor here? Did one of her acquaintances, co-workers, whomever, introduce her to these girls in the sketch? Does the heavyset blonde that either works at the exact gas station Brianne worked at or right next to it in that same intersection area, did she introduce Brianne to these other girls? I mean, what can we make of all this information and this timeline? So Brianne, it is reported as fact that Brianne was upset on Saturday. So she's upset on Saturday. Okay, so it was during the afternoon. That was an afternoon shift. Then that night, she made plans with her best friend, Christy Kane, to meet up at 11. But after 11, she's at the gas station, whatever it is, 11:15, 11:30. She's at the gas station with these other girls. So she blew off her best friend, or did she not blow off her best friend, and Christy Kane knows more than she has said? So again, regarding the information here, Christy Kane called her mother, Brianne's mother, at 3:30 a.m. Again, the witching hour. Is that another coincidence? Heart pounding. So she was driving around town looking for Brianne's car and couldn't find it. And then she started calling family and friends. So that afternoon, she's crying at the gas station she works at. She was upset, broke down into tears. Later that evening, she's making plans with Kane to meet her at 11 p.m. Now, it would also be curious. The other thing that's kind of ominous is right next to the rock pit is a liquor store called the Last Call Liquor Store. At least that's what it's called today. Is that another ominous sign? And then right adjacent, right in that intersection is the 7-Eleven. It's right across the street from the Last Call Liquor Store, which is right next to the rock pit. She could have also been getting liquor at that liquor store. Now, supposedly there is footage of her in the Cheers liquor store. There's two Cheers. One of them is right next to is closer to the 7-Eleven area. One of them is on the other side, closer to the McDonald's and the gas station. I don't know which one is the one where Brianne allegedly was that night, where there is alleged footage of that has never been released. And what does that footage show? So, in our timeline here, Brianne might have been upset and hysterical if this traveler's information is true. Several days later, she's upset the afternoon at the gas station where she's working. Or several days later, she's spotted at the rock pit the night before. Then the day she disappears, that afternoon, she's breaking down crying during her shift. Then she's last seen at the 7-Eleven right next to the rock pit. So is there surveillance at the rock pit? How much investigation was done? Rock pit owners. I mean, this is bar, club, whatever. Again, another hot spot for drugs. Possibly also human trafficking. Allegedly, there's a lot of people that go missing in the Revelstoke area. Again, Labor Day weekend. What is going on at the rock pit, and are the clues? Is the smoking gun at the rock pit? Would be curious to know if there was surveillance, but even if there was no surveillance in the actual rock pit, I mean, there's gas stations all over the place. There's another gas station right there. There's another liquor store there. This is 1998, not 1970. There's got to be other security footage all over town. Her car could be tracked. Who she's with could be tracked. And the night before. If a proper investigation was done, it seems like there's enough evidence here to solve this case. Why has it not been done? So again, I cannot stray from the possibility that there is a drug connection here. Final post I'm going to read here. This is again relating to a possible drug connection at the rock pit or elsewhere. This is a Web Sleuths forum post posted by Linda, December 28, 2015. No idea how I ended up here, but I just read an entire forum on another site about her. I came here to see what Web Sleuths were saying. What a strange case. It could have been drug-related if she went off with these girls and they offered her drugs and maybe she died from a reaction or something and they panicked, dumped her car, and left. It's odd the money was untouched, which seems to show it's definitely not a robbery. And why else would some strange young girls want to murder her? It makes no sense other than an accident. So, on that note, there's quite a few theories here and quite a few possibilities that could stem from that. So, Brianne did cash her paycheck that day. So, if somebody was looking for a simple robbery and they knew that she cashed her paycheck, wouldn't they take the cash? Unless they didn't know she had the cash in her wallet. Maybe they would rob her if they thought she had money, but they assumed she didn't. Because she either worked at a gas station or McDonald's or whatever, they assumed she just didn't have a lot of money on her. If these are people, again, druggies, maybe there was a drug overdose, maybe not, but they just never bothered to check to see if she had cash on her. Does that explain that, as opposed to they did check, they saw the cash, and they left it there anyway to misdirect? Because if they're getting out of Dodge, why wouldn't they take the cash? I mean, criminals are criminals. Why wouldn't they take the cash? Because if they're not planning to be caught, like, what's the harm in taking the cash? It's not like that would increase their chances of being caught. Or just take her entire wallet or purse, whatever. They just take it all. It's kind of, I mean, isn't that kind of weird? So is it possible they didn't even know it was in the glove box? Or if there was more than one individual involved, one of them was tasked with just dumping the car, so that, again, they didn't even know that the wallet was in the glove box. If they did, would they take it? They probably would have taken it. So there's a lot of possibilities on that angle. And if it really is it possible that her seasonal depression, or whatever they called it, is not related to her disappearance? Again, just given the timeline. Is it another coincidence where all of these episodes where she's upset are not related to maybe she went to a party and OD'd or whatever, and it was covered up and her car dumped, and this was not an intentional murder? Or if it's far more nefarious and it is some kind of drug trafficking situation. Now, it's this testimony from this traveler, this coffee traveler, it seems that connects some dots. If this individual is truly telling the truth, he needs to be brain fingerprint scanned, of course, because if these individuals at the 7-Eleven really were involved and they really did show up to where Brianne worked, or right next to it, with this heavy-set blonde worked at the gas station who was acting really nervous with them around, there's more than meets the eye here then. Because why, let's say they were druggies or out-of-towners, why would they go to her workplace and try to intimidate her coworkers, especially when they knew police would probably be around investigating? That just does not seem likely, unless there's far more going on here. And if these really were just people passing through for Labor Day weekend that maybe were responsible for her, maybe not, for her death, if she's even dead, of course, we didn't really go over the possibility that she's not dead. We probably should, but who knows? Either way, her car got dumped. So if they're not responsible, would they really go to her former place of work or right next to it? And what of these employees at the McDonald's? Were they just really that nervous that they thought they'd be connected to her disappearance, if they're innocent of whatever happened to her, but possibly guilty of drug dealing or whatever? Or even not. Maybe they're just nervous type people. They don't want the extra attention. Is that a possibility? But when trying to fit all of these variables together, it's really difficult. Because it's hard to rule out the rock pit if she really was sighted there the night before she disappeared, and then she's right across the street at the 7-Eleven the next night. That leads me to believe that there might be a rock pit connection. So, yeah, and then again, why the case hasn't been solved. Again, I didn't throw this out in the first episode. I usually do throw this out. If there does happen to be corrupt law enforcement possibly involved in the trafficking of drugs, which again, this wouldn't be the first time it ever happened, would they downplay the investigation and make sure it didn't get solved? Just throwing that out there just to cover all the bases. Or simply, as some people believe, the police just didn't really care that much. So, a lot of possibilities here. A lot of avenues to explore. If there's any further information, I will, of course, do a follow-up episode, but I believe I covered just about all the information available in the Brianne Wolgram case. All the Mindshock listeners out there, feel free to add your thoughts, comments, theories, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind in the comment section. If you enjoy the podcast, find it interesting, want to support the podcast, want to keep up awareness in this missing persons case, cold case, and others, feel free to donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for exclusive members-only streams and chats. And, of course, like and share to keep the awareness up. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or request. Could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. A lot of those benefits are also available on YouTube memberships. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you can get updates when we drop the latest podcast. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.